Would you like to state your name for the record?
My name is Hyman Myers.
Okay. And my name is Bruce Lafferty.
Good.
And hi, you and I have worked together for a long time on these oral histories. And just for the record, I'll say that I'm delighted to have you in front of the camera.
Good.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood and your parents and your early schooling.
My childhood was in Philadelphia, in the western part, West Oak Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And
What street did you live on?
Mohican Street, 1816 Mohican Street.
Mm-hmm.
My father was in the tire business, wholesale, and my mother was a housewife, typical housewife. I went to Pennypacker Elementary School, and I graduated from there to Wagner Junior High School,
Mm-hmm.
and then Wagner to Central. And it was a very common, normal childhood.
Do you have siblings?
I have a sister, Sheila,
Mm-hmm.
and she was older by 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and well, that's all.
Okay. And so like a number of the architects that we've interviewed, you're a graduate of Central High School. Anything you'd like to say about your Central days?
Well, I must say that Central was very good, and I had no idea of how good until many years later. But it was very good and very transforming to me. In fact, I feel very close to many of the Central High School classmates of mine, and we're having our 50th reunion. Well, we had our 50th reunion, and we had a large attendance. We now have regular meetings, which I haven't gone to, but we stay pretty close together.
Mm-hmm. So Central was one of the schools that offered a Bachelor of Arts degree, and
Yes.
when you commenced.
That was amazing, a Bachelor of Arts degree, which I did receive,
Mm-hmm.
and that was an interesting and very good
Mm-hmm.
time for me.
So when you were a boy or when you were in high school, did you have any interest in architecture, or what was your first sort of interest in architecture, or did it develop when you were a child at all?
I think that my very first interest was like Frank Lloyd Wright's. I was playing with blocks, and everybody said, "Oh, that's very good, you should be an architect."
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed playing with blocks, and then I got a Lincoln log set,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed playing with that. So I assume that from early, let's say 7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
one could say that I was headed in that path.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, I was headed in that path too, and I applied in high school to University of Pennsylvania, and I was accepted. And I was the last person undergraduate to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to...
You mean because they changed the program?
Yeah, to graduate program. And
So how was that program set up then? Was it 4+2 or?
it was 5 years of architectural engineering, which was
Uh-huh.
my degree. And 1 year later, I stayed and got a Bachelor of Architecture.
Mm-hmm.
But since I went through the entire program with the graduates, they awarded me the Masters of Architecture because it was the same program
Mm-hmm.
that the graduate students took
Mm-hmm.
that I was able to take.
Mm-hmm. So you started at Penn in 1959
Yes.
when you graduated. So talk a little bit about the atmosphere at Penn, about some of your professors, challenges that you had.
The interesting thing was I didn't know that Penn was going to be a graduate school. And when I started there, it was good in that Central prepared me very well for school, except, academically I should say, except that I had no idea that I would be amongst graduates.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the class, it was amazing, seemed so much older and so much brighter. And I was very jealous of these students who could do all kinds of drawings and all kinds of things and had experiences which I lacked.
Mm-hmm.
They had worked for the summer for architects.
Mm-hmm.
And come to school, and they had abilities which are beyond what I had, and I was very jealous of that. And they had, in fact, some had wives,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very difficult for me to compete,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a tough struggle.
Did you live on campus or did you commute?
I commuted,
Mm-hmm.
which made it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
The situation was amazing in that these students, when we had charrettes,
Mm-hmm.
would bring their wives and help them do the drawings, which
Mhm.
was amazing to me. And I looked around, everybody had somebody helping them, and
Mhm.
there I was, not helping at all, not having anybody to help me. But it got through. There were 3 of us in the class who were incoming freshmen
Mm-hmm.
in the graduate program.
Who were the other 2? Do you remember?
The others were a man named Kimball and a man named Dietrich.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 of them, they just didn't graduate simultaneous with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I persevered and was able to get through.
Mm-hmm.
The teachers were very, very good. It was a very positive school years for me.
Now, who among them, you name names and talk about specific influences, in terms of your
Well,
lesson?
right away, for basic design, which was our first course, we had a teacher named Mrs. Novitsky, and she was a very big influence. In fact, she was very helpful and also very tough. She was an interesting person and European, and she's still alive, by the way, which is amazing. She must have been very young when we had her, but I didn't notice. She really was a very high influence. She made us look at our work, and then she would destroy it. And she would say that I couldn't do that, but she could. She could destroy the things because we worked on it so hard. And she was a major influence. I had Gettys and Halls and Weissman, and it was really a terrific set of teachers. Jurgala, and who else did I have?
Did you study with Lou Kahn?
I didn't study with him, but I attended all of his lectures. I had Ennis, a terrific friend of the Athenaeum, and
was he a teacher of yours?
Yes, he was a student teacher, and he taught various courses, but in art history. And that was a very big influence on me. He was able to talk about and teach art history a number of times a week. And I had him once. And I would go to all of his lectures. I would just sit in and hear them, sometimes repeated, sometimes they were new. It was an amazing thing to be with Ennis, who was terrific. He was inspiring, and he was and articulate. He was an amazing professor.
We were recently given Paul Hirschhorn at Drexel gave us a set of notes that Bob Ennis took in 1955 when he was taking history of British architecture at Penn. And it's just amazing. For student notes, the thoroughness and the detail, and his own line drawings illustrating what was being taught in the class. It says so much about him. And I've never heard anybody, I would never have the privilege to hear him lecture. I've met him on many occasions, but I've never heard anybody who wasn't just sort of bowled over by
that was me too.
His quality.
And I would go, and he would just say, "You're not supposed to be in this class, are you, Mr. Myers?" And I would say, "No, but I enjoyed it so much that I would go 2 or 3 times a week."
So, you getting back to Louis Kahn, you said that you would not audit, but
I would audit his
okay.
classes. I would go to his lectures. I'd go to his studios, and he was also a very inspiring teacher. His words, his language, his ability to really expand the mind was what I had thought college would be, typically. And he was just mind expanding. He was wonderful. And I'd go to his classes as well. He was extraordinary. He could make you think, and you would really be wonderfully inspired by him.
So I noticed from your portfolio, I was reviewing it this morning, that Robert Venturi was also one of your professors.
Another inspiring architect. It's amazing. Robert Venturi taught, let's see, history, I think, of design. And it was mind-boggling again. That was just a wonderful experience. Venturi to be so terrific in the way he would think about architecture and the way he would teach. It was wonderful. I had him for these courses. I don't think I had him for a studio designer. I don't think so. But he was really mind-opening. He was able to take concepts and historical aspects of design, and he would just bring it right up to modern times. It was wonderful. I used to have him in the afternoons, and I would immediately have to run over to Ennis courses, and it was, again, the same thing, and that's what I thought college would be.
So you were getting your money's worth then?
Oh, I was, indeed. Oh, he was terrific.
Before we leave that particular time, I just wanted to mention and ask you your memories or thoughts. In 1964, the Philadelphia chapter of the Society of Architectural Historians was founded, and you were a founding member of the chapter. Do you have any memories or thoughts about those early days of SAH, which in fact had its inaugural meeting in this building? So
I didn't know I was the oldest founding member until we had an anniversary party, the 50th, here.
yeah.
And I think it's because they must have lost records of who else was before me.
Well, it may be that there are no other members who are current and active members who
I don't know about that.
who are still.
But that was an interesting aspect of my career and of my interest in history. This was Architectural Historians Philadelphia chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And
But the national headquarters was here too.
the national headquarters were here, and I remember Mrs. Barry, who was the head of the organization at that time, and it was on Walnut Street,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember going up there to talk to her many times. But the point that I was so amazed was that I was a founding member, and maybe I was even first president, I don't even remember, the first president of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I would like to be president, but I don't know if I can do it. Why don't I share that responsibility with someone else, and we'll go half and half. And I said that, and we agreed, and the co-president then was George Thomas. So that was interesting.
Your paths would cross in multiple
Oh
ways.
yes, I met him, interestingly enough, in Freeman's auction basement.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the same auction at the same time because we were interested in what was being sold. And what was being sold is William Price's collection,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I don't know, housed in a moving company, I think. And nobody had paid the
Mm-hmm.
freight. And so I was there to pick up whatever I could of Price's collections. And the first collection, I was told there wouldn't be much interest.
Mm-hmm.
I could buy it for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And the first collection came up, and it said, we have Price's drawings, and what do we do about them? And he says, all right, I'll bid $1.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, $1. All right, I'll bid $1. And as soon as I bid $1, somebody else bid $2.
Mm-hmm.
And I said $3. And it was $4 already. And I said $5. And I was amazed that $5, this was high at the time, $5, and then it went to $6. I said, oh, I'm not going to bid on that. So it went to this other person, and George Thomas was the other person. And it happened a number of times, and I then went over to him in the middle of the auction, and I said, why are you buying this?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I'm writing a book on
Mm-hmm.
Will Price,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to have as much material as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, great, that saves me a big problem, and it saves me the storage
Right.
of all this material. And I said, very well, you can have the collection. You'll have no competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then the prices were $1, $1.50, nothing prices, and he got most of the material.
Mm-hmm.
So I was delighted to meet him then and to find safety in Will Price's collection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit more about how you became interested in architectural history and in preservation.
Well, architectural history.
You didn't start out when you finished at Penn. You didn't start out as a preservation architect?
No, I didn't, but the fact is that I was thrown into that quickly, and I thought that could be a great career. There was no architectural preservation course at that time, and I went to my first job after I didn't graduate yet. It was my first summer job. Was through Joe Jordan. Joe Jordan, the architect, and his small firm had the first job. I was the only employee, and it was an amazing job because I had to do everything in the office, and that was interesting because you even wrote your own paycheck, which was amazing. That was an interesting time. But his first job was the renovation of a historic building in Lombard Street. And
So would this have been before 1966, before the National Historic Preservation Act?
oh yes,
So was it historic in terms of being on the city's list of historic buildings, or it was just historic with a lowercase h?
lowercase
Yeah.
h, that's the point. And we made a great design for it, and went ahead with a developer. And it was fun to do that. And after Joe Jordan, I went back to school and I studied. And the next job I had was with Weissman Spohn, one of my teachers, Weissman. And he had a partnership, again a small partnership with Spohn, who I think that Weissman was the main designer, and Spohn was the businessman and contract man. He in fact led the office, but Spohn was there too. Weissman was there too, and that was interesting because, again, it was a small office. I really didn't know anything about architectural offices, and I was interested in this. And after working there for a year, a little townhouse office, that was an interesting experience because we did small commercial, small residential. Again, I was dealing with historic buildings, and this was before the Preservation Act, before anything historic. Philadelphia had an historic commission, but it was very minor. And that was an interesting period. It was a period before I was interested in preservation or old buildings. I read a lot and I went through wonderful times. I was introduced at that time to the library company. And the library company was very good for me because every Tuesday night I was able to go there. It was open until, I think, 9 o'clock. And I was able to really get involved in old buildings. I looked at every single photograph in their historical collection. And I was interested in furnace, and I was taken to their photographic collections, and I was given box after box of photographs of Philadelphia, and I could really see furnace in these photographs. And I began to list them and know which is furnace and which wasn't furnace. And I was introduced to many people who had a similar but not quite furnace interest, but and I met them, and I was able to get a new view on life in Philadelphia in the 19th century. That was very good. I think that time period was an amazing period.
There's something about the ability to browse in a great collection, whether it's a collection of books or a collection of photographs, and to allow yourself that luxury of looking at things that you might not be looking for,
Right.
but stumble across and making those connections.
That was a wonderful time. George Thomas would be there every now and then, and we became friends again, and we had a similar interest, and that was an interesting time.
So you had mentioned that you worked for a number of small offices, but you also worked for a very big one, perhaps the biggest. How did that come to be?
Well, not the biggest. The next firm I worked for was Day and Zimmerman. And Day and Zimmerman was an engineering firm with a little bit of architecture. And that was run by Frank Fatetta. And that was a very good choice for me, because that really developed into a long time commitment. But Day and Zimmerman was at 17th and Sansom, diagonally across from the architect's building. And I went to work there, and I was interested in money. I was interested in getting paid a good salary for the work that I did. And I thought, boy, that's interesting, I'll work for them. And
did you make money?
Yeah, they did make money.
Okay, good.
And that was a good times too. And that happened in 1970. The things that I've left out, I should mention, was I worked for Vincent Kling.
That's who I was getting at with the
Yes,
big.
and that was a big firm. And we worked, at that time I was in the studio of Dan Copel. And Dan Copel's studio was in the building at Broad and Arch. No, Broad and Cherry? No, Broad and Arch. The United Engineers building. And we worked, the project that we were given was the airport. And that was a good project. The airport was going to be gigantic. And we had to run the roads and run the buildings and do all the work in design for that. And I was put on the roads, the road work from Philadelphia to there. And we designed all the roads, the M-planing road, the D-planing road, the surface transportation, the subway line, and all of the roads that went to the airport. And the project was so big that we had a big team. Ignatius Wong, the architect, was there, and we became friends, and we became partners on the road projects, the M-planing road and the D-planing road. And we had to memorize, which elevation it would be at which terminal. And we had all this in our heads. It was very good. And finally, that project was getting along so well that we had to get more people. And we had about 30 people. And we then took the office and we moved it from the giant office of Kling, which was very successful, to north of Arch. So we did that, and they moved there, and we were all alone by ourselves. This seemed like the right thing for an architect. For the period that I was at Kling's, the first period when we didn't move, you'd hear all the loudspeakers saying, you know, so-and-so come to the second floor for a meeting, and you hear all the names and all the people who were involved. Florinda Donata, and then Delpt.
Right. Her husband to be.
Yeah, her husband to be.
Right.
And they were all there, and John Bowers was there, and Vincent Kling, and everybody. And it was just so big, and you'd hear all these names all day long. And it was wonderful to be in a separate office. So we were finishing the airport in this separate office. And I thought, now I should look for something for money. And then I went to Day & Zimmerman. And I thought this would be good. This would be outside the box, an engineering office. It might be interesting. And in 1970, I moved to Day & Zimmerman.
Was Frank Vitetta more of an engineer than an architect?
No, he was an architect. He was an architect. Yeah, he was a true architect. And his division, Day & Zimmerman Associates, was separated from the engineering, and we did architecture. So that was good in 1970 to develop that field, that architectural field with a big E, engineering. And he was thinking of developing a separate practice from that architecture, because with so many engineers, the amount of architecture and the importance of architecture would be minor. And he felt that as well. So he developed the architectural engineering of Day & Zimmerman Associates. And that was an important development, because I stayed at Day & Zimmerman and Day & Zimmerman Associates and Vitetta for the next 40 years.
So when did Vitetta separate from Day & Zimmerman? When did the break occur? And did you go from the beginning?
Yes, I went from the beginning. I was one of the associates, and Day & Zimmerman bought out the firm and went to Frank Vitetta, with Frank Vitetta, around 1980, somewhere around there. That was an interesting time, because we were graduate architects. Frank was a graduate architectural engineer, the only other one I ever met. And so I felt a loyalty to him. And we started architectural practice. And Vitetta, which became the name of the firm, had offices in New Jersey and Delaware, and it had them all over. That was a development which I hadn't played an important part in, but I got my start in historic preservation there in 1970. And with other architects, Mark Lombardini, Joe Sorrentino. These are names which have been part of me for a long time. The work was interesting. It was unusual work in that it was still engineering because we had taken the jobs with us from the beginning of the firm in Day & Zimmerman. But that was a good time. The work at Day & Zimmerman was interesting and it was exciting. And we did lots of programs which were based on studies. I remember doing one in which it was an enormous booklet. And that booklet would have, if you did this to buildings, if you did the stairway in the center, if you did the stairway in the side, 1,000 iterations of what could be. And that was led by Sheldon Neubauer. And that was a gigantic project, but it was only a study. But page after page and drawings after drawings of the same building with different configurations. We did buildings in, what was it called? The Valley Forge National Park. And that was a good project. And so I was taught really by Sheldon Neubauer historic buildings. I can't think of who else was on that team, but that's what happened in the beginning. And then I guess the major buildings that we did.
So which was the first of the buildings that you did in terms of preservation? The first major.
I think General Knox's house was the first.
General Knox's house?
Yes.
And where is that?
In
That wouldn't come to my mind.
That was at Day & Zimmerman, and that was in Valley Forge National Park.
Okay.
And we worked on that. And next came, I think the first big building was the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, which is the first building I included in this submission. This was it was to restore the building and to make it a new venue for the old Academy of Fine Arts.
Let me interrupt you here just for a moment. In terms of the timing, in 1973, the Philadelphia Museum of Art had the Frank Furness exhibition and the catalog, which you contributed to with George Thomas and Jim O'Gorman. He was involved in that, right? And you want to talk a little bit about the revival of Furness's reputation and perhaps what it meant to that architectural project which followed up on that?
Well, I believe that was 1973, and the development of an exhibition on Frank Furness was an extraordinary thing in that he was forgotten almost completely, and he was so unknown that you wouldn't think anybody would have an interest in him. And the Philadelphia Museum put on an exhibition, agreed to put on an exhibition of his work, and George was the major portion in that. George George Thomas really developed Frank Furness's career. Well, I had already done an index, 3x5 card index, on all the furnace buildings I found at the library company. And I had 200 buildings. And George Thomas said, well, I think we'll do an exhibition on Frank Furnace. You might want to be involved. I said, oh, that'd be great. I would like to be involved. And I'll give you my background and information on Frank Furnace, and we'll put it together and we'll have enough to do an exhibition. So we did. And we developed the list, 400 buildings of Frank Furnace, some of which I had never heard of, some of which George never heard of. And we really combined. And George was really the key. He made that happen.
Do you think that the restoration of the of PAFA would have happened if there hadn't been that revival of interest?
No, absolutely not.
Because it was not an attractive looking building in terms of just the dirt, on the facade.
I'm sure it wouldn't have happened
Yeah.
without that development of interest in Frank Furnace. Anyway, the exhibition did occur, and the catalog was produced, and it was very successful. In order to do the catalog, and that's what O'Gorman was, he wrote the essay. And O'Gorman knew about Frank Furnace, but he didn't have any major knowledge of what buildings he did and the hundreds of buildings that he did do. So George and I gave him all of the research we had done. And then he was the major essayist. Anyway, the work in the catalog was put under O'Gorman's name because he wrote the catalog. And we did all this research, and we were just the catalogers, that's all. Anyway, that was completed in 1975, and it was very successful. In 1973, also, the Academy was started. But it was at the same time as the furnace exhibit. And so nobody at the Academy knew anything about furnace. They just didn't know. And even the board members didn't know.
I hadn't been old enough to visit the Academy before your restoration, but other than seeing it on the outside, could you describe the interiors before you got them? And did the administration there essentially ask you to make it pop, or were they just as surprised at what you found?
They were surprised. They didn't know about Furnace, and they didn't know what he did, but again, seeing this exhibit, they thought it could be really a great building. And it was essentially a white interior. All of the painted surfaces were overpainted, and the decorations were boxed in with drywall, and only the main space, although painted over, was an indication of what was there. It was a lost building on the inside. And they said, well, let's do a study to begin with. And then we did the study, and we said what it could be. And they thought, well, maybe we should do that, and they did it.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was your role in the restoration there? Were you the lead architect?
I was the lead architect. We got the job, and it was an unknown, really, what was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just very little experience, but I was really set on making this a great building.
Mm-hmm.
And with the exhibition, well, this was terrific. This was what we had to do. And my research, it was fabulous. I had all materials on the Pennsylvania Academy. And there are only two great buildings, the Academy and the University of Pennsylvania Library building, which I had intimate knowledge because the School of Fine Arts got that library as their school. So I had intimate knowledge, and I was there at the time, and I knew about furnace, and I knew about the Academy, and I was really the prime person, and they saw that, and they hired us. But I still have the proposal we wrote for that, and yeah, I'd say I was the lead and the knowledgeable person. So we decided we took that commission and we developed it from 73 to 76. It took a whole lot of time. It was done essentially as a piecemeal job. That is, we'll do this first and this second and this third. And little by little it got done. It was amazing that it could get done. It was $5 million worth of work, which is not much these days.
No, not by today's standards.
It would have been a $50 million project today, or $100 million. But that's what it was at that time. And we had to go funding and taking people around, introducing the board to Frank Furnace. And that was tough. And then you took away all these coverings and they showed glorious things. And that's what happened to that building. We didn't get done a couple of things because of budget. We didn't get done the two ventilators on top of the front pavilions, but that was nothing terrible. But everything else got done. They're doing it now again, 40 or 50 years later. So it's time, Anyway, we worked on that building, and I had no idea of the importance compared to other buildings that would be given to that. And that really made a reputation for me, specifically. That opened the doors for everything I was going to do.
And so what was your next major commission then, after that?
Yeah, I took a small commission to do the Ryers Museum.
Oh, Burholm.
Burholm.
Well, that's just around the corner from where I live. So
Yeah.
just walked past it yesterday morning.
That was the next job, and that was a very good job. And I said to myself, if I take this commission and do a good job, that'll cement my reputation. So, without thinking of it as important, I said, okay, I'll do that next. So I took that job, and I wanted to do a job which didn't have a reputation, didn't have an importance.
Right. It's an out of the way place, and
Hardly anybody
Yeah.
gets to.
Right. Mhm.
So we did that job next, and that was a job which took a year to do. And that was a successful job too.
Mhm.
The main mansion and a little bit of outdoor buildings,
Mhm.
outside buildings.
Mhm.
The project was completed again very successfully, and that was done with the Fairmount Park Commission.
Mhm.
And that was the only library that I had worked on. It was a library inside
Mhm.
that, a public library,
Mhm.
which that library building was the only public library which was outside the purview of the Philadelphia library
Mhm.
system.
Mhm.
And that was really successful. We were able to renovate and restore that building to a large degree, and that has been very successful.
Well, at least from the outside, it's holding up very well. I can attest.
Well, again, it needs things
Yeah.
today.
Right.
In that building, the Philadelphia Museum of Art played a part in that it helped the rioters
Mhm.
with its exhibits.
Mhm.
In all of the exhibits,
So there was a museum wing that had been built on
Yes.
in the early 20th century. Yeah.
and they did that.
Yeah.
I laid out the casework, etc., and they laid out the exhibits, which was very good.
Yeah.
And it made that place really shine.
Mhm.
That was successful.
Mhm.
Again, I lost the value of the projects that were so great. The Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts was a great project,
Mhm.
and I didn't know it was a great project. I just thought it was a successful project, and that was it. But it won a National Trust
Mhm.
Award for the year. I didn't submit it.
Mhm.
And we didn't even get any other awards for it.
Mhm.
I just didn't think of that at all. I was thinking of the project.
Right.
And that was a major mistake of mine, because you could have gotten a lot of jobs based on that.
Mhm.
But no, I went along and did this building myself
Mhm.
on the Riders. That was interesting.
Mhm.
And then, based on those two, that set the stage for my career.
Mhm. So, when you, looking towards your next project, is it something that you worked on by yourself, or did you start to assemble a team, a preservation team?
I assembled a preservation team, and one of the key persons on that preservation team was Joe Sorrentino.
Mhm.
And Joe Sorrentino has remained with me all these years,
Mhm.
and he was excellent. He's an excellent architect, a Drexel graduate,
Mhm.
and he was really a key person.
Mhm.
I didn't have a professional preservationist
Mhm.
agenda on my mind to hire a preservationist.
Mhm.
In the 1970s, there just wasn't any.
Where would you get them?
Yeah, but he was a good architect, an excellent architect, and could detail and draw beautifully. And so by the 1980s, we were doing big work, and we were doing the Capitol at Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
So he was involved in all of that work and became a major preservationist.
Mhm.
We hired Nan Gutterman.
Mhm.
Nan Gutterman was a young architect who had a preservation background. Well, I thought, well, we should get her. And she said, well, I'll let you come for a year. I only had a year in Philadelphia. And she's still at Vitetta.
Right.
Incredibly. It was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But she was the only person I would trust
Mm-hmm.
with doing important preservation work.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the Academy of Music job. And 5 years later, maybe 8 years later, we had her come
Mm-hmm.
to Vitetta, and I would trust her with doing the preservation work.
Mm-hmm.
This was 8 years after I was in charge of preservation work,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really involved in all the work of the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was getting so much work that we decided that I'd have to hand over the job
Right.
and the day-to-day activities
Mm-hmm.
to Nan. And the only person I would trust is
Mhm.
Nan.
Talk a little bit. I've always thought of the two academies, at Cherry Street and at Locust Street, as your wonderful bookends and gifts gifts to the city. Talk a little bit about the Academy of Music and how that job came to be, and what you did, and what some of the challenges were there.
I was interested in the historic buildings along Broad Street because there were lots of photographs of those and lots of pictorial information. I thought that would be great. So I just would study them myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I studied the Academy. And one day I walked by the Academy and there was scaffolding going up on the insides. I thought, wow, what is that? And I went and found out who the architect was.
Mm-hmm.
And I got permission to go in and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh heavens, I've never seen so much scaffolding. This was the entire interior
In the auditorium.
in the auditorium. And I went and had dinner with that architect at his house, Erling Peterson.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him, I said, boy, this is a great building. And he was he was a preservation architect without the title.
Mm-hmm.
So he talked to me about the building, told me about how it developed and what to look for. And
Mm-hmm.
it was very good. We were at his home until, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I thanked him and I went away. Now, he died maybe 6 months later. And they were looking for the architect to finish work. And I was the architect they chose because he mentioned me and I
Mm-hmm.
knew about the building.
Sure.
It was a very close relationship, the buildings and the knowledge about the buildings. And that's how I got involved.
Mm-hmm.
I was hired for a year to do the work. And then they hired me again the next year and the next year, and I was there for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
or 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
the in-house architect for
Mhm.
the Academy of Music.
Mm-hmm. So, do you want to talk a little bit about the work that was done there, not just architecturally, but in terms of the finishes and how that spun out in terms of your supervision?
It was a lot of work. We would work year by year, and we only could do enough work in that year to be completed
Mm-hmm.
because you couldn't work
During the
the
season.
And we would open up the Academy again
Mm-hmm.
every year with a great concert and the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would plan future work on the same basis, only doing the work that could be done, that could be completed in time for the opening.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we would do, I remember the first job we did. We had to I did a whole survey of the building. I thought that was a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the first project was on the amphitheater level, there were balls on the top of the seats. And we had to put them back because about 20% were missing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw was that that was easy to do because people wanted souvenirs. And they would take off these during the concert and take them home and put them in their pocket. And nobody believed me.
Very American thing to do.
Very American. So I showed them how somebody would come. I would take a seat at a concert, and during the concert I would take one off,
Mm-hmm.
and I would put it in my pocket and take it in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we had to stop that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with an idea of the first year to put those balls on the top of the
Mm-hmm.
seats and put them in with irreversible screws
Mm-hmm.
that you couldn't turn back. They're security screws. And no screwdriver would fit.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. We changed them all, and I had balls cast in brass
Mm-hmm.
to put where they were missing, and that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, none were missing the next year, and none were therefore ever missed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great to have those. And every year we would do a small project.
Mm-hmm.
We would do a balcony, on the balcony level. We would do plaster walls. On the main floor we would do new carpeting and marble repairs. And so all of a sudden I look back, and after 10 years, a significant change had occurred. One time we put carpeting down the stairs and in all of the balcony, amphitheater level, family circle level, and we had a carpet printed for us and woven for us. And I remember we sent a young person to copy exactly the colors of the carpet and the pattern in the Brooklyn Museum of Art. And that was a huge project because she took a piece of mylar and we outlined every single pattern. And it was a floral pattern, every single leaf, the carpet would have a color, and she was very good on color. She was the best person on color that we had. And she would match different colors to each particular area of the carpet. And that was carefully done. And brought it back, and we had this carpet. So we sent it to the carpet mill, and we had it a color made and woven and dyed to those specific colors, and we made a carpet. And we put the carpet down. Well, that was an extraordinary thing. Because the people at the Academy had never seen a carpet like this. And to have a huge corridor of that carpet was mind-blowing. And that went in, and that said, I remember Lyndon Pennock, who was the president of the Academy, came and said, "My gosh, is that really correct, Hyman?" I said, "Yes, this is what they do." Well, they were very pleased. And we had draperies done and valances done, and then the main curtain had to be done. And we had an old curtain. This is the main stage curtain, and that was a significant element, and that was done very similarly to what was there originally. And that was, they had a big opening for that.
one of the other people that we interviewed here, Nick Giannopoulos at Keystone Hood, told the story about the problem with the roof during your performance. What are your memories of that?
Well, that's an interesting story because that was very important. That was, we were finishing up the work on the Bellevue Stratford Hotel. And we got a call that said, oh, you gotta come over right away, blah, 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 the roof is gonna fall in. And we went over and we found the concert was going on, Friday afternoon concert, and we were there, and what happened was one of the structural engineers went up and was doing some investigation for an elevator, but I put in a new elevator.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first elevator in the Academy of Music. Very important project. So we had located the elevator on Locust Street, and we took it up, and at the very top where the rafters come down, she was investigating the connection for the steel beams which would go in there. And she found that end of the truss cracked.
Mm-hmm.
So she went down and she said, you know, this is really going to be a problem. I better call the office. So she calls the office and she has Nick Giannopoulos come out and take a look.
Mm-hmm.
He says, oh my gosh, this is really critical. The roof could fall at any time.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be certain that nobody was hurt, in the intermission to the concert, he went out and said we have to empty the building.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was very quiet and didn't panic. And they ended the concert midway.
Mm-hmm.
And this had never happened before. And we found out that a wind shear effect coming down and lifting the roof
Mm-hmm.
of the Academy had occurred and had cracked that truss and other trusses.
So
were
wind
cracked.
from the outside swept up, pulled it up, and then
Left
dropped it down again. I had never heard that was the problem. Is it possible that wind shear was caused by the Academy House building?
No,
you know,
well,
the way that it,
You can't say that,
Okay.
but there are tall buildings all around.
Right.
And the fact is that the wind came down and lifted up the roof and then dropped it,
Hmm.
which cracked all the trusses over the Academy. So they had to close the Academy of Music for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks
Mm-hmm.
and put in steel
Mm-hmm.
to clamp together these trusses. And that was only a temporary repair.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to run around and get all the other venues available for the concerts because they have major events.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that, and then they opened up and they agreed to do the repairs. And that was a big deal because they had to get new trusses inside
Mm-hmm.
of this Academy. Replacement trusses.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the next year's work, the first 2. And then the next year, they had to get the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that means taking the seats out, clearing the floor of the Academy,
Mm-hmm.
structuring the temporary supports. Oh, and that was a big job. And only could be done off-season.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the major work.
Mm-hmm.
The cutting of the ceiling to let these steel towers go through to support
Mm-hmm.
those beams, meanwhile. Oh, that was a terrific thing.
Mhm.
But that was done and done on time, and that was really good. The major work was done by, what's the name of that firm?
Keith and Hood?
No, the construction. Oh, that was done by a metals firm.
Mhm.
The metal trusses and the supports was done by,
Turner?
no,
Driscoll?
I can't remember the name. It's
Okay.
a very big firm. They had helped me on other projects, and I would constantly use them. They were excellent. I'll think of them in a minute.
So let's talk a little bit about the Reading Terminal.
That was another big project.
You seem to be fond of those big projects.
Yes. The Reading Terminal was a project that was done in the 80s.
And we almost lost the head house there too. I mean, after the commuter tunnel was opened in the early 1980s, there was some talk that the Reading head house might come down.
That was all supposed to be destroyed.
Yeah.
It was a white elephant in the worst sense.
Mhm.
That there was no use for that building. And when the convention center came along, we decided that was useful.
Mhm.
We'll make that the entrance to the convention
Mhm.
center.
Now, was there a competition for the convention center, or how was it that the TED got the?
Well, it's interesting. We had studied the convention center. No, we had studied the use of the building for the Reading Railroad.
Mhm.
The Reading owned that property, and they said, well, we'll see what we can do with that property. And then we did a study for Reading
Mhm.
for that property. And then the convention center came along, and we didn't think it was terrific. It would be a big ballroom.
Mhm.
That's what we thought of it. That would be the best use. But the Reading wasn't doing very well, and that was forgotten. Anyway, the next thing that came along was the convention center.
Mhm.
And would the convention center be a good fit for being downtown?
Mhm.
So we did a study for the convention center which said you could be located there in the Reading Terminal train shed,
Mhm.
or across the street on the Litt Brothers site,
Mhm.
Snellenberg
Snellenberg, yeah.
Snellenberg site, or in a number of locations around the city.
Mhm.
And we found that they liked the idea of the convention center location on the Reading Terminal site.
Mhm.
Well, that involved destructions of historic buildings
Mhm.
on Arch Street, and we began there. That was a key factor. But there were only 3 historic buildings of significance
Mhm.
on Arch Street. And we looked at all of them, and there was a group of buildings, which was one of the 3, which was done by Cope and Stewart's, I think. And that had to be reckoned with.
Was the Harrison building?
It was the Harrison
Yeah.
Building and a number of others,
Mhm.
all done by Cope and Stewart's.
Mhm.
And that was a problem. Well, that problem was taken care of
Mhm.
by a fire. And then there was a question.
Not that you had anything to do with it.
That was the question. That was the question. You know, how did that fire occur and what happened? And because we thought that was a historic building.
It was a major fire. That was, I worked here at the time. You could smell the smoke and see the smoke from our balcony. And I seem to recall that if one more alarm had been tripped, it would have been called a firestorm. And I remember them hosing down the shed roof, you know, to keep that from going up. That was a big fire.
A big fire. And then there was a question about how did it occur and what happened. And, well, they found out that it was electrical for no problem. But that was a significant development, which able to clear that site. And that was one historic building that was a major block of buildings, but that was a major impediment. And I'm not sure they would have been allowed to build there. That building, in fact, when we did a study for that building, I went in that building, and it was the last major building to house a hat making facility in Philadelphia.
Really?
And that was a significant building. But the Historical Commission felt that that use, that hattery, was significant. So we did a filming of the making of a hat, and we because we were thinking of the future, and there was a lot of effort made to document the hat business. But every use of that building, that was the only significant use of that building that was left. But there were businesses that were there 80, 100 years, and the hat was the largest. That was interesting.
So the Harrison building was gone, and the ground was ready. What were some of the challenges with the train shed and were you responsible for the head house as well, or?
I wasn't responsible, but that was still Dane Zimmerman, Associates, and Vitetta, but the new construction was handled by somebody else. Fran McKibben was the architect. In fact, he just died. The convention center was really a combination of two firms, Vitetta and TVS&A.
TVS&A?
TVS&A was a firm in Atlanta, I believe, yes, Atlanta, who was known for a convention center. And they were responsible for the design. We were responsible for the construction documents. Oh.
That's just a little bit more than an hour. So why don't we finish talking about Reading, and then we'll. There's obviously lots more to talk about, but we can set up a time soon to do the other, or we can go to lunch and come back. I have an appointment at 3, whichever you prefer. But it's going very well, so.
Well, I don't care.
Okay. Well, let's finish talking about Reading. You were saying that the convention center was split between Vitetta and this company in Atlanta. Were there difficulties in terms of the market and the assurances and the accommodations that had to be made for the terminal market during restoration?
Yes, I think that's one of the unsung stories of the whole convention center. The marketeers were asked to leave while they renovated their space, and they didn't want to leave. Well, Harry Perks was in charge of the convention center. Harry Perks was the head from the convention center, and so he worked out a deal they could stay, but they would each move around the market and be continually there. The original marketeers in 1893, I think, wanted to stay in their market space too. And Reading said, well, all right, you can stay and we'll build around you. Well, they built the giant building all around them, which was fine. And that was the key to us doing the same thing.
And they never missed a day of business.
No, never missed a day.
Well, like the Wanamaker building, when it was built in 1909 to 11, it replaced a building that was already there, and John Wanamaker insisted that they never closed.
Well, it's the same thing. And they were so insistent that it was amazing. I thought, boy, oh boy, if I were making the final decision, I would tell them to get out. I couldn't believe it because of course it was expensive.
Right. And the liability issues too.
There was the market and there was a wooden roof over it, and then there was a space, and the trains were above that. Well, the wooden roof contained all kinds of terrible, environmentally, it was a nightmare. The trains would drip from their engines, material that would fall down on the roof, and it would leak through, and it had to be covered with plastic in order to keep it operational. The work was enormous, but they did it. The portions of the roof were covered with plastic, and huge sheets of plastic to cover, and they were controlled, and all the work was done. And the lead on the columns had to be taken off, lead paint, and recoated, and they couldn't drill through, and they couldn't attach because the lead paint was a problem. But it was all done. It was an amazing job.
And I would absolutely agree that it's one of the unsung, success stories in Philadelphia and American preservation. And as a Philadelphian, when I have first-time visitors from out of town, that the market and then the shed are always on my first stops because I think it's such a quintessentially Philadelphian place. And when the development of the convention center was announced, and as it progressed, I really had great fear that the market would be sanitized and sort of homogenized. While it is cleaner, it's cleaner than it's ever been. It didn't lose its grit or its feel.
Right. I said in one of the meetings, I said, you can get the market to look like Boston markets,
which
Faneuil Hall,
which
does not have the feeling of continually being there.
Yeah.
And that was a real problem. We had to overcome that problem.
Right.
And that was a hard thing to do. But we assigned different architects to different vendors. And therefore, it wasn't all homogenized. It wasn't all white tile. It wasn't all complete.
Right.
And we kept the flooring, which would give the feeling
without the sawdust.
Right. Without the sawdust. That was great. That's really really one of the stories, and I blame the marketeers, the vendors, that they gave no credit for that.
Yeah.
And it was really, you go in there and you know it's clean and new, and
Yeah,
but it still has a feeling
exactly.
of the market.
Exactly, and better than ever. I mean, it's hard, with the revival of Center City as a residential area, more people use it than
It's
ever
wonderful.
had, and it's a great public space. One of the young women who worked at Vitetta and had done some research here, because the Athenaeum has, over 500 drawings for the train shed, which you and your colleagues have been looking at for the entire length of the project. Joanne Sweet, she, right before the project was finished, she invited me to come over for a hard hat tour of the train shed. She was one of the first women ever to make me feel very old, because as we were looking through the train shed, and on that platform there, that great space where the tracks were, she said, "Did you ever ride a train into this building?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, more than once." And I felt like I was about 110 years old. But we were probably only about 10 or 12 years out from trains actually coming into that space. So why don't we just wrap up now and go have lunch, and then we'll plan our next our next attack. We don't want you passing over from hunger.